Of this video is to explain the basic steps of doing video analysis in Logger Pro. And the 9 topics I will be explaining are over here. And we'll be starting with creating a folder and putting the movie we want to analyze in the folder. So I'm going to be storing it in my physics class folder, and this is part of week 1 homework. So in week 1 homework, I want to make a new folder. And I'm going to title this folder something to do with what I'm going to put in it, which is going to be video analysis, and then describing the movie we're going to analyze, which is Onion on a Conveyor Belt. The second step is to put the movie in the folder. So we're still on this step 1, but create the folder, put the movie in the folder. So the movie, I have my movie on my desktop, so I need to open this folder, and I'm going to drag the movie into the folder. If your movie is in a program like iPhoto, you can usually drag it from iPhoto into the folder, or if you have a different kind of program for your movies and pictures, you might be able to just select it and then save as and save it in this folder. So that finishes step 1. Step 2 is to insert the movie into Logger Pro. So we need to open Logger Pro. Once Logger Pro is open, under the Insert menu, we want to choose Insert Movie. Now we need to navigate to find the movie we want to insert. So I have it on my desktop in my physics class folder, and it's in my week 1 homework folder, and it's in here, and this is my movie. So I'm going to open the movie. Once you do that, it should show up inside your Logger Pro file. I am going to get rid of the graph because for this tutorial we're not interested in the graph. So to get rid of the graph, I select it, which means there's these little blue boxes on the corners. And I'm going to hit my delete key to make it go away. I'm going to drag my movie over here. And now we have completed almost the second step. We've inserted the movie. At this point, it's good to save your file. So let's save it, and we want to save it in the same folder where the movie is. So here I am in my folder, Video Analysis, Onion on a Conveyor Belt. There's the movie in the folder already, and now I'm going to save my, my analysis file. So I'm going to call this Onion on a Conveyor Belt. Maybe I'll call it Analysis. So we're ready to save it. The Logger Pro file has to be in the same folder as the movie. Otherwise, when you go back later to try to play your video analysis, if the movie is not in the same folder, the file will not be able to find it and the movie will be missing. So make sure the movie and the Logger Pro file are always in the same folder. Now we're on step 3, watch the movie. So let's click the play button. Here's the onion going across the conveyor belt. So to review the buttons down here, play button, this is to stop the movie. This is to rewind to the beginning. So I just rewound to the beginning. So play, you can stop anywhere along the way. This button is to go back to the previous frame. This goes to the next frame. Then up at the top there's a few numbers. Right now only 2. Later on there will be some numbers here in the middle. This number over here tells you the frame number that you're on out of the total number of frames in the movie. So this movie has 140 frames, and this right now currently is frame 60. And then this number over here is the time in seconds. If we rewind to the beginning, we'll notice that the time is 0. If we advance by 1 frame, the time is 0.033 seconds. So most movies are taken at 30 frames per second, and this means that 1 frame takes 1/30th of a second, which if you take 1 and divide it by 30, that gives you 0.033 seconds. So you can see that it's going to increase in multiples of 0.033. Later on there will be a number here in the middle, and that will tell you the XY coordinates of the mouse. Okay, we've watched the movie and become familiar with the controls. The fourth step is to enable video analysis, which we do by clicking this button down here. And that's going to give us a toolbar, and we'll be using these tools to analyze the video. The first, and I'm going to once again delete my graph. You can leave it there if you like. The first thing we're going to do in analyzing the video is setting the scale. So we're on step 5. To set the scale, you're going to click on this button, the yellow ruler. And this button we're going to use to identify an object in the movie that we know the size of, so that the computer has a sense of what units to do the measurements in and what the distances are. I don't actually know the dimensions of the onion, but I'm going to estimate by looking at a ruler that my onion is probably about 8 centimeters. So I'm going to choose the onion as the known item. And to set the scale, you go to one side of the object that you know the length, hold down the mouse button and drag to the end of the object, and then release. You'll see a green arrow showing the length you've selected, and I'm going to put in that that is 8, I think I said 8 centimeters for that length. Okay, we've now set the scale. The next step is to set up a coordinate system. The coordinate system button is the third one down here. It's called Set Origin, but you can see it has what looks like an XY axis. Now we want to choose where we want to put the origin. I want to put the origin at the very first place where I'm going to put my first point. So I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to mark the points. I'm going to mark points by lining up the very top of the crosshair with this part of the stem of the onion. So that's where I'm going to put my origin. So now we have an x-axis. This is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. If we click on the axis, we can move it around. So if you don't like where you put it, you can move it. And if you click on this yellow button, you can rotate it, which is helpful if you have an object on a ramp and you want to have your x-axis at some kind of an angle. So for now, let's put it back. I'm going to put it back to the horizontal position. That's not quite horizontal. Well, that's still not horizontal, but it lines up with my conveyor belt, so that's all right. And let's move it over here. Okay, so we have our coordinate system. And our next step will be to start adding points. So I want to make sure that my movie is rewound to the beginning, which now I'm realizing my coordinate system isn't at the beginning of the motion, so I'm going to move it right there. So we're ready to add points. To add points, we click on the Add Point button, which is the red dot. And now we're ready to add points. So we're going to align the tip of the crosshairs with a point on the onion that's easy to identify, which I'm using the left edge of the stem. You could use the right edge of the stem. You could use this point at the very top, just something that you can identify clearly. It's not going to matter what point you choose. So I click here, and the movie advances a frame. So I click again, and the movie advances a frame, and I click again, and you can continue like this. What I'm noticing is my dots are so close together that I can't really distinguish them. And I'd like to be able to see a pattern in the dots. That's one of the things we want to look for when we do video analysis. So this object is moving rather slowly, and it would be helpful if more time went by between each of these dots. So I would like it to advance by maybe 5 frames instead of 1 frame each time I put a point. So I want to delete these points and start over. To delete points, we need to click on Select Point, and then I need to select a point, and it puts a little blue circle around it. I don't know if you can see it. Once it's selected, hit the Delete key on your keyboard, and I'm going to select the next one, Delete key, select the next one, Delete key, and my first point, Delete key. Now I want to change, I'm starting over, and I want to change the amount of time between the frames. So under Options, I want to choose Movie Options. Just a note, if your movie is not selected, if you don't have these little blue boxes on the corners, you will not be able to choose Movie Options. So if it's grayed out, check to make sure that your movie is selected when you're trying to use the movie options. Under Movie Options, we want to come down here, advance the movie. I'm going to pick 5 frames after adding a new point. Okay, let's start again adding points. Rewind to the beginning. Ready to add points. Lining it up with the left end of the stem. Oh, much better. Now I will be able to see and line it up. So here is the onion moving along. You want to take care to get it lined up as best you can. I'm doing this a little bit quickly. Now we're going to get to the point soon where the onion stops moving, which is right about here. So you'll notice when the onion stops moving, you end up with lots of dots on top of each other. So that is the basic tutorial of how to set up video analysis. You can see over here you have a data table where the computer has recorded the time for each of those points that we put on the movie and the X position, and that is measured relative to our origin. So if we had a different origin, those X positions would be different. And here's the outline of what we've covered in this tutorial.